Now, 30 years later, at the request of Governor Frank Gooding, the nation's most famous detective visited Harry Orchard in the warden's office at the state penitentiary.
Have a seat here, Harry. I've got it from here. I went to see Orchard with a view of breaking him down and getting a confession from him, but I did not let on who I was. I presented to him the case for cooperating with the prosecutors, and that if he gave evidence about his co-conspirators, he might receive leniency in his sentence.
I have committed no crime. I have heard and read over 40 times just such talk as you have made. And there are instances where such talk has only made innocent men confess to crimes that they never committed.
Have you heard of the Molly Maguires and of the state witnesses who saved their own necks by telling the truth?
The detective, McParland, had that all fixed and saw to it that whatever promises he had made were kept.
Have you ever seen a photograph of the detective James McParland?
No.
Well, I am that McParland.
3 days later, the detective and the prisoner met again. It was obvious that Harry Orchard had been pondering his predicament.
His manner was entirely changed. I opened up the conversation by asking him if he had thoroughly studied over the conversation we had on Monday, and more especially the points wherein I suggested regarding the matter of state's witnesses.
I have thought very little of anything else, but I do not see what interest you have in me.
Well, I have an interest not only in the welfare of the state of Idaho, but every state in the Union that is affected by the blight of the Western Federation of Miners.
Are we speaking confidentially?
Of course.
That being the case, let us suppose a case for the sake of argument. I will now say, I am guilty of the crime as charged. I have committed the crime. Now, you have already stated to me that you have absolute proof of my guilt. Such being the case, why do you come to me and talk to me as you have done?
I did not come here to find out if you were guilty of the murder of ex-Governor Steunenberg, as I have positive proof of your guilt, and will hang you by the proof in our possession. But as you are but the tool of the power behind the throne, the inner circle, hanging you would give very little satisfaction. According to the law of conspiracy, a co-conspirator can be guilty of the crime if he conspired with the perpetrator to cause him to commit the crime.
I think, Mr. McParland, I now understand the proposition you take. But the people of this state will not be satisfied to allow me to go unpunished.
If you became a state's witness, the people of Idaho would not look upon you as a cold-blooded murderer, but as a savior. If you take my advice, you will not be hung. If you do not, you will be hung, and in very quick order.
Over the course of the next week, Harry Orchard confessed to a series of murders that accounted for much of the unsolved violence in the minefields of the West. Yes, he had placed the bomb that killed Governor Steunenberg.
I took this bomb and placed this at his gate, attached with a string, so that when he opened the gate and started to go in, this string would pull the cork from the bottle of the sulfuric acid and cause the explosion.
Yes, he had killed at least 17 other men.
Just before the train got about 200 feet from the platform, we pulled this wire and caused the explosion.
Yes, he had tried to kill the governor of Colorado and the president of Bunker Hill Mining Company. And yes, his co-conspirators were the leaders of the Western Federation of Miners.
Charles Moyer Bill Haywood, George Pettibone, and I had a conference, and it was decided by us that I would come down to Idaho and try to assassinate ex-Governor Steunenberg.
Orchard broke down and cried several times while making his statements, but seemed very much relieved after he got through.
It was one of the most extraordinary confessions in the annals of American criminal justice.